And now CBS4 News investigates at least 8 people were shot in Miami in recent days, including 3 teenagers. It's becoming an everyday occurrence, sadly. But tonight, we go past the headlines. For months, CBS4 investigator Jim DeFede has been tracking shootings in South Florida, gathering never-before-seen information and looking at the toll the violence is taking on those surrounded by it. It's a rare look into a year of bloodshed.
In South Florida, violence is only a newscast away.
2 men and a dog shot and killed in a car.
1 person died in the gunfire.
A drive-by shooting in a trendy South Florida neighborhood.
In 2012, more than 500 people were shot in Miami-Dade County.
That baby's mother is now fighting for her life.
On a recent Friday, a 23-year-old man, shot 3 times, is brought into the Ryder Trauma Center. Before the victim even arrived, Sergeant Carlos Castellanos and Detective Frank Perez of Miami's homicide unit were at the hospital waiting to talk to him.
The sooner we get on the case, the sooner we can start the wheels rolling.
The number of shootings and murders has remained fairly constant in recent years. Solving the cases, though, is growing more difficult. The homicide clearance rate for Miami-Dade County was 42% last fall. In other words, nearly 6 out of 10 killings were unsolved. For the city of Miami, it was 50%, both below the national average. And the clearance rate for shootings in the city of Miami was hovering right around 43%. Eunice Cooper is the commander of Miami's homicide unit.
Well, when you look at this, how do you rate yourself for 2012?
I wasn't impressed.
This was the city's murder board for 2012, detailing every case, either closed by arrest or still open.
When we got to November and December, we had a rough patch there.
Yeah, a lot of those cases still open.
Yeah.
Cooper has been in homicide for 25 years and seen how things have changed.
When I first came to homicide, we could go and sit down and talk to Grandma and tell Grandma, here's what we got. This involves your grand, or we can go to Mom and sit down and talk. And they would actually bring them in and sit down and allow you to talk to them.
But that is rarely the case today. For Miami detectives Daniel Valladares and Frank Perez, it can be daunting.
That thought of snitches end up in stitches or ditches is very large in this community.
Somewhere in society, it's gotten to the place where it's almost wrong to do the right thing.
Do you ever think to yourself, this case is never going to get put down?
No way. No way. You can't have that approach in this assignment. You have to take on the approach of, is it challenging? Yes. Is it difficult? Yes. Do you have a lot to work with? Maybe not. Well, that's where, if it were easy, anybody could do it. So this isn't easy. It never has been, and it never will be.
And even if the case isn't solved right away, it stays with you, Castellanos said.
That case is in your mind. That family's in your mind.
One thing that has changed with time is the attitude of those holding the guns.
I've had young people come in and tell me, well, I've had 2 or 3 friends killed. I'm not going to live until I'm 21. It's almost as though they're immune to the violence.
CBS4 News plotted nearly every shooting in Miami-Dade County for 2012. The scar that cuts through the county is evident from Overtown to Miami Gardens. In the midst of this carnage lives Robert Malone. Every day, Malone picks up his 12-year-old nephew from school to make sure he arrives home safely.
I mean, there's no playing around like I did. I played basketball and football and walked home and, played with my friends. We see the violence. We see the senseless violence. Not only do I fear for him, I fear for my entire family. I fear for the families that's in this community.
President of the Hadley Park Homeowners Association, Malone lives in this house with his mother, sister, and nephew behind a series of gates, locks, and bars.
We all kind of govern ourselves by certain rules. My sister goes out at night. I don't go to sleep until she's in the house.
Your family may not be victims of violence in the sense of being shot.
Right.
But you're affected by the violence in that it changes the way you live.
Right. And again, we have some great families in this community.
Malone said the one thing he's tired of is the posturing of politicians.
If some young kid is killed, then everyone will get together and they want to have a press conference and say, no to violence, or they want to have a gun and collect guns off the street.
Malone said it's a nice effort, but the guns are everywhere.
You can get a gun real quickly in this community, real quickly. If you really want one, you can get one. That's shameful. That's shameful.
Now, with the debate in Washington about gun control, one of the things we looked at with the numbers that we gathered was how many assault weapons were used in these shootings. Turns out, much like the national average, only about 6 to 8%. Now, tomorrow night, we're going inside the Ryder Trauma Center to show you what those assault weapons and handguns can do to the body. It's a rare look again behind the scenes. We were there when shooting victims were being brought in.
Yeah, you and your photographer actually spent the entire night there, so
we
you really
did.
saw a lot.
We did. We had and really got a chance to talk to the doctors and nurses. Hearing from them is something you rarely get to do.
We'll look forward to that tomorrow. Jim, thanks.
They're on the front lines, and you're taking us there. Jim, thank you very much. CBS4 News Tonight. We'll be right back.